Oh, yeah, I've already been admonished to get my pain in the right chair. Oh, yeah. Because that's the one where I like to go straight, and it wants to go left.
Yeah.
And as we say, a time was had. Yeah. What's Jerry doing now? Well, it's like a bunch of people come in. I introduce myself. I'm Jerry Young. I'm Jim Black. Yep. Yep. Well, gentlemen, I'm sitting here conspiring against you.
Oh, I figured it. I'd be disappointed if not.
John says, you know, you're going to have a few free for one. Yeah. Here's Tom. What's that? Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea. You want me to hold that back here? Yeah, even the leaves sometimes think, people fight for it.
There's no pictures. What percentage of the folks in most areas? The population of our county
Yeah.
somewhere around 55,000. I say that coming cheap. But I've always heard about these numbers. And if I tell you 55,000, Jerry's going to come out and say, no, it's 58,000.
No,
So,
48.
yeah, so, come on, 55,000. Supposedly 12,000 veterans retired from the country. That's the great population. However, we don't have a record of who was 12,000. That was okay. Yes, okay, that is always possible. Correct. So, the names of all on this whole app, and hereby, in fact, that was part of our discussion session. Do we have a right to do it? Yeah. We're not so war veterans. There's nobody alive today. You know, we're getting out. In the old days, they wanted to. And that's not leading to what happened. Now we're down to great, so there's no even good memory of it. And we kind of always use the analogy of what the Vietnam veterans war. The guys that can make changes for the Vietnam veterans war, because there's a lot of Vietnam veteran guys alive. We struggle with that. Right. So maybe there were 12,000 around approximately. how bad is this thing? The reason being is they said they went to share posts, they posted papers, the Harvard guys, they moved away, they got a notification that, they went to Mexico, whatever they could possible. But there were also folks that were removed. Correct. There were civil veterans who deal created nations for. In the surviving area documentation, it says we have people in the county council. We don't start that names people that never over there. You're elected by him. Okay, there was a specific criteria. At the time, and my gut feeling wanted to treat it. I just kind we had a partial my gut feeling, just like you joined the VFW, whatever, you have a law in the world today, 1914. I got it. So we didn't want to somehow they wanted to how did they get on the wall? What yeah. So why do you say it's because I'm not sure you have correct. My gut feeling is you had to show up for this purpose. There's no written record of it, to our knowledge. I assume this name is that was part of the problem.
Interesting. There is really no such thing as
That's correct.
you may have capacity and the commander group you probably discharged, but that's where it is.
Well, not necessarily. The arts and out there. But it wasn't
gonna get you tight.
You can't use today's standard.
Where are they going to spend more from there?
There's two command manuals reading things.
I can't use today's standard. So, like the TD240, said automatic. We just recently reported in the paper 3 days ago.
I've seen it.
There's some high school kids out in Florida. They found a 12 African American black very unmarked race. One of them may be a civil war veteran. The problem is they're buried in Potter's Field. And the civil war veteran was if that we know. Okay, so it's questionable. So, and again, you're talking high school kids. It's not, at this point, it's not in-depth research. So, the problem comes, we have this invisible segment of society. Maybe it's necessarily not 50, 60 years, you know. Yeah, I just couldn't talk about it. Hello, how are you? So they went to all the technology. So that's
Okay, very good. Hey, there's everybody else out there. Okay.
where these guys moved around the world. I think that's what it takes. And the other thing is, maybe not necessarily, they were recruited from here. Maybe not. In other words, Cleveland was a major city. There's no sense in investing in Lincoln, Ohio, because it wasn't a major city. legal was the major, you know, we gotta remember, like, it's right across the bridge, you know? But you're saying that there was never like in documentation that filed not to be filed, not to be correct. But there's nothing like documentation there. Oh, okay. We got to work out a lease, which is we got a roster which was written by Schofield's wife. She was a member of the legal board, which was a post-Civil War veteran organization. We started looking at what is period. I most never saw the criteria sheet we created. And then the list of contracts comes when you first join it. That's definitely a period. We got to start
We signed a few of them. One guy get picked. Yeah.
We're in the birds of the list. Correct. And then bounties get back into the prison.
If I can back over here, we're gonna go over the names.
We did.
We had a few of them.
Yeah.
We whittled down a lot of
Rebounding.
So there are two sets. There are two sets that are exactly the same. Everybody can see. There are two sets exactly the same. Okay? And so Sergeant Paul is going, when it comes time, what's going to happen is they're going to unveil this. And as soon as they're unveiled, Jerry and Paul will go on this side, and Sergeant Paul and Yolanda will go here. And I want to thank the rest of the speakers to come forward. You guys are going to form your lines. Sergeant Paul will begin with reading his names. So, the way we're going to read this is we will begin with 5th United States Colored Troops Company C, and then we're actually going to be reading from right to left. So it's going to be Private James May. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Only one time when you get there. Okay? So you would do 5th United States Colored Troop Company C, Private James May, 5th United States Colored Troop Company D. When you get done, you're going to walk in front of the podium and go back, and that's what you're going to take up. So everybody's name is in here in order. Okay? The one I want to show is the 27th is Lars. So Alan, you're going to start 27th. And then, Judge, you're going to end up picking, this is where you're going to pick it up right here, CEC. And then Mike, you're going to pick up C10. That's what MS said. Okay? All right. Are you guys comfortable? You want to walk through it? No, whatever is in your, so whatever's in your plan. So we're only going to read the company. Yes, 27th, and then that, and then you come back over here. Okay?
Do you want them to have rank?
Sure.
Rank will be added.
No, that's what these are here for. Yes, correct. Okay? The United States Colored Troops, out of sight. Yes. And if we missed it, so.
Okay, I got a question.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Good morning, soldier sailors. My
You
name
can pick rank first or rank second. On the
Speaking.
list, it's rank second. So if you want to say rank first, Sergeant, Carter, Andrew, you want to rank first, yeah.
That was his name. Yeah, and there was a lot of them. Take a day off.
Sorry.
I was a nightmare.
Are you guys? Any questions? Thank you so much for your help. Just to let you know. So, you guys have flash. Do it up. Do you guys have any questions? Are you guys good? Okay. Thank you.
You got plenty of questions.
A 7.
How you doing, man? How you been? Good. How they treating you over there? Yeah, same old thing. To find out. So. Thanks. Good hairline.
Can we throw my
So got you out of the streets, huh?
Yep. You're absolutely, let's make sure this is in right order. Balls up to top. Always up to top. We got all our speakers.
I didn't see that.
Where is she? Shane, ready for the music? Ready to go. So, all right.
Cell phones on vibrator off, please.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument. I'm Tim Daly, Executive Director of the Monument. On behalf of the Monument Commission, I thank each of you for joining us for this special day. Nearly 125 years ago, a true Victorian gem was dedicated as a perpetual monument to service to those American Civil War veterans from Cuyahoga County who answered the call for the nation's defense. Recorded on the Roll of Honor of the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument are the names of 9,000s of their sons, who in the days of trouble and the hour of danger were ready to do battle and, if need be, to die that the country might be preserved. Since our dedication, the Monument Commission has held sacred our mission that until the mountains are worn down, the rivers forget to flow, till the clouds are weary of replenishing the springs, and the springs forget to gush, and the rills to sing, shall their names be kept fresh with reverent honors, which are inscribed upon the Book of National Remembrance. Today's edition of 107 new names to the Roll of Honor of the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument represents our unswerving commitment to our sacred mission as we move forward into the future. At this time, I'd ask everybody to please rise for the playing of our national anthem. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. A man is not dead while his name is spoken. What a wonderful sentiment this is to those who honor the past and seek to learn from it. The Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument memorializes and speaks the names of the 9,000 American veterans who represented Cuyahoga County in the American Civil War. Located on Cleveland's Public Square and dedicated nearly 125 years ago on July 4th, 1894, the monument currently includes the name of 22 United States Colored Troop veterans whose names were confirmed as part of the 1889 process that verified veterans from Cuyahoga County. The original list of names was compiled in 1889 from the records of the Adjutant General's Office in Columbus, Ohio, and was as correct as could be made from the data then available. This list of names of every soldier and sailor who entered or who was appointed to the Army or Navy from Cuyahoga County was compiled by Mrs. Levi T. Schofield. It was printed and distributed statewide for review and supplementation, and was left open until July 15, 1889, when it was closed so that work on the marble tablets could proceed. Furthermore, the 1894 history of the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument, written by William Gleason, states, the war records were searched, large correspondence entered into, careful inquiry made from comrades, their families, and close friends. In fact, every available means of information was sought in order that all of the names of the honorably discharged soldiers and sailors who enlisted or were appointed from Cuyahoga County would be recognized and perpetuated. Reference was made to the record of each comrade as compiled from the original muster rolls published in the Ohio roster of Ohio soldiers. In every case where the record could not be traced to an honorable discharge, the name had been omitted. Moreover, it must be acknowledged that oftentimes the information of the United States colored troops from Ohio, in many cases, lacked any discharge information, which would have shown that these men had completed their tours of service. Accordingly, all of these factors contributed to the reason for why more names of the United States colored troops was not included in the monument in 1894. Yet over the years, names have been added to our roll of honor, based on historical research and confirmation that has been set forth by the Monument Commission. For it must be understood that the historical documentary evidence required to place all the names that deserve to be included in the monument simply was not available in the 1890s. Today's significant addition to the monument's roll of honor is the result of nearly 20 years of painstaking historical research and verification work using modern methods. It began in 2002 with high school history teacher Paul LaRue of Washington Courthouse, Ohio, and Mr. LaRue's advanced placement history class students. One of the class's projects involved research on 7 United States colored troop veterans buried in the Washington Courthouse Cemetery. Their work led to new government-issued military headstones being installed on their graves, rightfully honoring those who had fought for their country. This success led the class to continue its research on burials of other United States colored troops within the state of Ohio. This work came to the attention of the governor's office, which issued an executive order to provide copies of Ohio's Civil War enlistment records to the class. As the class continued its work, names of several veterans from Cuyahoga County were uncovered. Jerry Young, a monument volunteer at the time and now a commissioner at the monument, learned of the class's work in 2009. Mr. LaRue graciously offered the use of the microfilm records to the monument for continued research. The monument formed the committee for this work. For nearly a decade, Mr. Young, Committee Chair John Silvas, and I have conducted extensive research on behalf of the Monument Commission that has included fact-checking, verification, and re-verification. At its meeting of October 9th, 2012, the Monument Commission adopted the following criteria as the standard from this point forward for determining the eligibility of those who may be honored in the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument. To this end, veterans must be 1, honorably discharged, and 2, entered or appointed from Cuyahoga County. This criteria was reaffirmed by the Monument Commission on January 30th, 2018. Throughout the course of this work, the committee reviewed and was guided by numerous historical records, which included the 1894 history of the monument, the 1889 roster of names created by Mrs. Schofield, and other military records, such as 1, the list of rolls, 2, returns and reports required from company commanders, and 3, United States military pension records. Likewise, it should be noted that several of the documents which the committee was able to gather and review were the direct results of digitization work which had occurred during the last 5 years or so. More importantly, it's the committee's firm belief that future digitization work will eventually supply even more data within the years and will allow us to uncover even more names to be honored within the monument. Yet beyond this, the most important documents that were used to complete the military history of these men now being honored were the United States pension records. For if the pension applicant was approved, the veteran was issued a formal pension certificate which demonstrated that they had served and completed their tour of service honorably. Therefore, the Monument Commission has determined that if the veteran is issued a formal pension certificate, that certificate constitutes the determination by the government that he had completed his term of service during the American Civil War. Thus, by our use of the pension records, we have been able to complete the historical record which other military records are found wanting. The resulting research of the committee has produced a name of 107 names that are eligible to be honored within the monument, and by formal actions have been added to our roll of honor. Today's ceremony is the culmination of many years of hard work and dedication of an educator, his students, the monument's historians, the commission, the state of Ohio, and Cuyahoga County. Today we add the names of 107 American heroes to their rightful place on the roll of honor of the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Today we shall speak their names aloud. Today we shall bring them to life, and today they shall not be dead. Thank you. At this time, I would like to call up from the Monument Commission Mr. Jerry Young, a veteran of the United States Air Force, from the Cleveland Recruiting Battalion of the U.S. Army, Sergeant Travis Hall, from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Yolanda Graham, a veteran of the U.S. Navy, and Mr. Paul LaRue, retired history teacher from Washington Courthouse, Ohio. Without whose efforts, today's event would not be possible for the unveiling of the names. At this time, we will have the reading of the names, and I call forward the readers who will please come forward.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to see all of you here today. This is a special day. Today is, after all, Juneteenth. Everybody know what that means? Juneteenth is either called Emancipation Day or Freedom Day. And that's why we're so glad to have everybody here. This journey started many years ago. Names. Oh, okay. Excuse me, folks. First, we're going to read names here. We have Private Alfred Johnson.
Jerry. Paul, Sergeant Paul Sons.
I'm sorry. Yeah, all right, please.
Good morning. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Company C, Private James May. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Company D, Private Charles Wheeler. From the 5th United States Company Colored Troop, Company E, Private Theodore Clark. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Company F, Private George Blake. Private Benjamin Hamilton. Private Washington Kennedy. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Company H, Private Henry Boger. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Company K, Private Robert Robinson. From the 12th United States Colored Troop, Company E, Private Henry Wheeler. From the 12th United States Colored Troop, Company F, Private Wade Reese.
Please excuse my exuberance. From the 12th United States Colored Troops, Company K, Private Alfred Johnson. From the 16th United States Colored Troops, Company A, Robert Watkins, Private Robert Watkins. From again, the 16th United States Colored Troops, Company B, Private William Sims. Again, from the 16th United States Colored Troops, Company B, Private Powell Miller. From the 16th United States Colored Troops, Company K, Private Charles Johnson. From the 17th United States Colored Troops, Company K, Private John Robertson. From the 17th United States Colored Troops, Company E, Private John Rose. Again, from the 17th United States Colored Troops, Company E, Corporal William Strange. And again, from the 17th United States Colored Troops, Company D, Private Abraham Dent.
From the 17th United States Colored Troop, Company K, Private Frank Bowman, Private Reuben Grant. From the 27th United States Colored Troop, Staff Infantry, First Lieutenant Nicholas A. Gray. 27th United States Colored Troop, Company A, Private Joseph Black, Private Charles Gates, Sergeant William Hughes, Corporal William Johnson, Private Richard N. Jones, Private Jacob McCoy, Private William McDonald, Private Isaac Munson, Private William Munson, Private John Murphy, Private John C. Williams, Private Warren Wright.
From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company B, Private William Anderson, Private Jeremiah Reed. From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company C, Private John Bowles, Private George Ellis, Private James A. Waring. From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company D, Private Silas Anderson, Private Moses Jones, and Private John Reed.
27th Infantry Regiment, United States Colored Troops, Company Echo. Private William Grayson, Private James F. Johnson, Private Lewis Johnson, Private Daniel Stager. 27th Infantry Regiment, United States Colored Troops, Company Foxtrot. Sergeant Alexander Fletcher, Private Hugh Lewis, Private Samuel Price, Private Elias Stamp, Private George Stevenson, Private James W. Tucker, Private William Tucker.
From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company G, Infantry, Private John H. Brown, Private Samuel Gardner, Private James Hackley, Private Isaac Solomon, Sergeant John Swan. From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company H of Infantry, Private Henry Alexander, Corporal James Burwell, Private Lawson Cohen, Private Charles Higgins, Private Henry Pickett, Private Thomas Simpson.
From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company I, Private Austin Fletcher, Private James Morrison, Private Joseph H. Smith. For the 27th United States Colored Troop, Company K, Private Charles Anderson, Private Jackson Waldott, Private Henry Bryant. From the 27th United States Colored Troop, Company K, Private John Brown, Private Gaston Campbell.
For the 27th United States Colored Troop, Company K, Sergeant Andrew J. Carter, Private William D. Jackson, Private Edward E. Johnson, Private Thomas A. Jones, Private William F. Jones, Private Beverly King, Private Pleasant Langston, Corporal Christopher Miller.
From the 27th United States Colored Troops, Company K, Private William Moore, Corporal Benjamin Morgan, Private Clarence H. Patterson, Private Francis Randolph, Private Charles A. Ricks, Private Wiley W. Rowe, Private Nelson Sawyer, Private James Wilson, Private Richard Young.
From the 27th USCP Unassisted Infantry, Private Walter King, Private Solomon Quinn, Private Thomas Keller. From the 101st United States Colored Troop, Company B Infantry, Private Ohio Jackson. From the 107th United States Colored Infantry, Company A, Captain Waldo Goff. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Battery F Artillery, Private John Brown. Private Daniel Morris. From the 9th United States Colored Troop, Battery E Artillery, Sergeant Levi Freeman. Private Henry Sterling.
From the 9th U.S. Colored Troop, Battery C Artillery, Private Benjamin Dixon, Private William Johnson. From the 9th United States Colored Troop, Battery E Artillery, Sergeant James Cagle. From the 12th United States Colored Troop, Battery M Artillery, Private Thomas Campbell. Corporal Louis Reese. From the 13th U.S. Colored Troop, Battery L Artillery, Private Henry Jackson, Private Henry Matthews, Corporal Jerry Myers. From the 5th United States Colored Troop, Company H, Cavalry, Private Robert Fletcher.
On behalf of the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument, I once again reiterate that these men are now formal additions to our roll of honor and will be given the same honor due as the gentlemen who have already been listed on our roll of honor starting back in 1894. An event such as today does not occur without the work of many, many hands. And the few people we're going to have speak are just representative of those men and women who have spent many, many hours doing many, many hours of research over many, many years. And so the first gentleman I'm going to introduce today is Mr. Jerry Young, who started as a volunteer at the monument back in 2009 and now is commissioner of the monument. And it was Jerry's pleasure to get to know Paul LaRue and to bring forward the information that Paul had given to us, suggesting that these men existed and needed to have their stories told. So at this time, I ask for a few comments from Commissioner Jerry Young.
Thank you. All I can say is, wow, what an incredible journey this has been for all of us. I've learned an awful lot along the way, Civil War history that was never taught to me in school. And this is why I will call upon everyone in this room today. Please look at this panel with Abraham Lincoln lifting the shackles of slavery from the slave, the former slave on bent knee taking the oath of office as a United States soldier. The actions of the United States colored troops to me were just absolute, unparalleled bravery. Because these men knew when they made their mark on the line, or if they could sign their names, that if they were captured by the Confederacy, the best outcome they could ever hope for was to be sold back into slavery. More often than not, they were executed on this spot. Try to wrap your head around that. Several years ago, during the night, I stumbled across this webpage from this history teacher down in Washington Courthouse, where I was going through it and I'm seeing names of possible Clevelanders. Well, folks, that started. That opened up unbelievable. When we got digging, we found that most of these men were what were called at that time out of the 18th Congressional District, which took in all of Cuyahoga County, part of Portage, part of Summit, part of Trumbull, part of Lorraine, part of Summit counties. And it was weeding all these men out and where they had actually come from, the ones for Cuyahoga County. I got to talk to this gentleman down in Washington Courthouse, and the students started this incredible project. And now we're bringing it to fruition here in Cuyahoga County. These men have finally got their just due. Long awaited, but it's here. These men are the bravest of the brave. And with that, I'd like to introduce that history teacher to you, Mr. Paul LaRue.
Good morning. Rarely, as an educator, do we get to see where our work leads. And so it is a huge honor for my community. My wife and I hopped in the truck this morning and drove up to Washington Courthouse, and it is such a rare opportunity to see that. This all began, the city cemetery is about 4 blocks from our school, and we used to take what I call poor man's field trips, which meant we hiked out to the cemetery. We were walking through the cemetery one day, and I was showing the graves of soldiers, and some of the graves and headstones were bent, and one of the students, a young lady, raised her hand and she said, "Don't these men deserve better?" And I thought, absolutely they do. And that began a journey in our own community, and it's a journey that helped part of this up here. And again, when I say part, I'm an old coach, so this is a team. And this has been a remarkable team with folks who have gotten involved, but yet are willing to share the credit with more than 100 high school students who worked on this project. Again, this goes back nearly 20 years ago, and it's hard to believe now how this is carried forward. But I want to piggyback on a comment that Jerry made about Juneteenth. Not 10 minutes from where we're standing is the corner of 46th and Prospect. At that intersection is a monument to Colonel Charles Young. Colonel Charles Young was the highest ranked African-American soldier in the U.S. Army in 1917. He was the third African-American to graduate from West Point. When World War I began, everyone thought he would lead the troops in France. But unfortunately, because of the state of the race 100 years ago, he was not given that opportunity. And in fact, to prove his fitness, he got on his horse in Wilberforce, Ohio, and in 16 days, he rode 500 miles to Washington, D.C. to show his fitness. Now, if this was a Disney movie, President Woodrow Wilson would have come out and hugged him and said, "You're our guy." But as we all know, life is not a Disney movie. But what you might not know, Colonel Charles Young's father was Private Gabriel Young, Company G, 5th United States Colored Heavy Artillery. He was born a slave in Kentucky. He escaped, joined the Union Army, and fought in a regiment that had one of the highest casualty rates. They had over 700 casualties in that unit. Most of the casualties were from disease. But he knew that he wanted to fight for his country, and he wanted a better life for his family. Following the war, he moves to Ripley, Ohio, and raises his family. Those are the stories of those 107 men. Each one has a story, and I'm so proud to be part of this today as we share this opportunity to celebrate these stories. And that's what this is. This is a celebration. And again, all I can say is thank you for allowing myself and my community and my students to be part of that celebration.
Our next speaker is Mr. John Silvas, again, Commissioner of the Monument. John is a very active member of the Sons Union Veterans of the Civil War. He is a past camp commander of the James A. Garfield camp, the local camp, and he is a past department commander of Ohio for Sons Union Veterans. And John has how many relatives? 5 relatives on the wall. So for John, this monument is a personal connection. And John served as chairman of our names committee for these many, many years and helped guide us through this research. So Mr. John Silvas.
want to thank the commission. I want to thank Gary, Tim, and of course Paul for our work. I'd like to tell you that it was all order out of chaos, and sometimes it was chaos out of order. It was a long road. It was hard for us not to imagine to take today's standards and try to understand what they did in the 1880s. We stood here with 9,000 names on the wall. Most importantly, is that there were also 20 names already on the wall of African American troops. 20. So when we came to honoring and adding names, we wanted to make sure that we had it right. I'd love to tell you that there was a written policy in place. There was not. We started with the documentation that we knew to be correct, and then we tried to make sure that we had procedures in place. Obviously, deserters were not included in this research. They were not eligible for the monument. We certainly don't want to dishonor the 9,000 men who literally make themselves a barricade. And when you walk around this monument, it's hard to imagine the power and the impact the American Civil War had on today's society. I'd like to tell you that the last Civil War veteran died in 1956. The last Civil War veteran from Cuyahoga County, Mr. Peter Deamer, the 150th, died in 1943. So that's within a generation ago. We stand here today, most of us, we can say that this is my great-grandfather. None of us today understand what happened during the American Civil War. There was a time when, just like the United States monument to the troops in Vietnam, they can walk up there and say, I do that. Then there was a time when people could say, that was my father. That was my grandfather. We now are at the point where we have to say, this is my great-grandfather. I'm proud to say that I have 5 direct descendants on this monument. All 5 Gessner boys, for those of you who are familiar with the west side of the Olmsted Falls here. But this would not have been possible without that team that Paul spoke of. It would not have been possible without good students questioning what's going on here, what's in this cemetery. Look around. Cleveland has a great, not just Cleveland, but Cuyahoga County has a great American Civil War history. If you want to find some of that, go to the Woodland Cemetery, just a short distance away. You'll find the veterans section there. Look around. Keep your eyes open. It's a wonderful history, a wonderful story. And Cuyahoga County should be proud of that. I'm proud to play just a small part of it. Thank you.
Our final speaker for this afternoon is Judge C. Ellen Conley. Judge Conley is a longtime student of history, having completed all but dissertation for her PhD and in the area of Civil War. And we are fortunate to have Judge Conley serve as Vice President of the Monument Commission.
Today, as we add the additional 107 names of Civil War veterans of the Civil War who served in the United States Colored Troops, we add additional diversity to the monument. But in doing so, we follow the pattern of Levi Schofield, who started this monument. Our monument has women on the first rail as you walk in the door. And something that's very rare in Civil War monuments. And we also have our emancipation panel that has a depiction of Lincoln handing a gun to a freed slave. The only monument that we believe exists. And we have the African American sailor on the outside. And as you look very closely at the emancipation panel, you'll also see that Schofield has the soldiers signing up to enlist in the army and also signing up to vote. Because when you became a citizen, you also had the right to vote. We believe that these honored 107 men were not intentionally left out. These names were just not available. And we follow and we hope that in the future there will be additional names to be added. Over the last several years, our Monument Commission has added great diversity. We now have 3 minority members. Architect Robert Madison, who served in World War II. Oz Azali, who was one of the speakers earlier, is a veteran of the Iraq War. We also have a veteran of the Vietnam War and the Korean War. I serve as vice president, the first woman to hold office on the commission, and we also hired our first female employee. We have moved up in the world of technology from Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. We have a website. So this is technology that Levi Schofield could not even conceive of. We were able to add these names because the federal government digitized the records made in the bureau. We hope that in the near future we will be able to have near the monument a computer kiosk so that you can come in and tap on the name of that veteran or people to get to near the monument and get information about their life and what they did in the Civil War. History here at the monument is living. Our monument is made of stone, but it is not cast in stone. It is living and evolving. We hope to have new programs to enhance the memory of all of our fallen heroes, and at the same time instill a greater understanding of the Civil War and its long-term effect on our society. On this Juneteenth, as the nation recognizes the end of slavery, let us recognize that our society has come a long way since 1865. We do not want political rhetoric to let us forget our past. Americans, black and white, shed their blood to save the Union. They should all be remembered, and that is the mission of this sacred ground.
Before we conclude today, I'd like to just thank a few of the people and acknowledge each of the following for their support in today's activities. Our readers were from the Monument Commission, Aziz Ali, veteran of the U.S. Army, Judge C. Ellen Conley, Vice President of the Monument Commission, Commissioner William Doyle, veteran of the United States Army, Commissioner John Silvis, Secretary of the Monument Commission, Commissioner Michael Slawinski, a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and Commissioner Jerry Young, a veteran of the United States Air Force. From the Cleveland Recruiting Battalion of the United States Army, we have Sergeant Travis Hall. From the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, we have Alan Gray, veteran of the United States Army, Yolanda Graham, a veteran of the U.S. Navy, Connie Jackson, a veteran of the United States Navy. Researchers include Paul LaRue and students from Washington Courthouse, Ohio, without whose efforts this event would not have been possible. The various representatives of the media here today, we thank you, together with the work of our monument staff, for your support of this historic announcement. And finally, to each of you for taking the time out of your day to be here as we honor and remember these 107 new additions to the Roll of Honor of the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Please be sure to pick up a copy of the names and list from Mary Louise, who will be around here somewhere, over by the door. She has copies of the names and lists, so please take them with you today and share the good news of these additions. To each of you, thank you for your time and your interest. May each of you have a good day. Thank you.